Welcome back to Jim's Jeeps. Today on our 1998 TJ, we're going to go ahead and replace the transmission fluid. We're going to do a drop the pan, clean it out, put a new filter in, and refill with fluid. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Thanks for joining us today. So on the 98 TJ, I have about, I don't know, 15 or 20,000 miles on the transmission now since I last serviced it. I think it was around 2016 or so. And it's about time to go ahead and drop the pan and put a new filter in there and kind of swap out the fluid. There's a lot of debate on whether you should do that or not on an older vehicle. I think the general rule is if the transmission's slipping and so forth, don't bother changing the fluid, because you're probably going to be getting a rebuild before too long anyway. And then adding new fluid just makes everything inside even more slippery, and it'll slip more, etc., etc. But if the transmission's not slipping, I'd go ahead and change it out, probably about every 15 or 20,000 miles. And I'll show you how to do that now. Okay guys, we're under the vehicle now. I did jack up the back end, and I did that to try and change the profile where the angle of the pan were taken off. If you leave the vehicle behind us not jacked up, what's going to happen is when you loosen the pan bolts and try and drop the pan, all the fluid's probably going to get it up in the skid plate. And some of it probably still will, but this will help minimize that to a degree. So what you want to do carefully is start undoing these 1/2-inch bolts that are on the pan. Take them all out, except for one or two on the back edge back here. And more than likely you're going to need a 3/8-inch wrench and a lower profile 1/2-inch socket. Basically, we want to take all these screws out, bolts out rather. And as long as we're here, I'll show you rear main seal leak. Looks like that. You'll start seeing oil drip down between the transmission and the engine there. And that's not a terrible job. You got to drop the oil pan, and you know, it's not a fun job. You got to drop the oil pan, take the back main cap off, and put a new seal in there. And yeah, it's a couple 3-hour job probably. Let's continue on with this. So the pan's off. We just set it inside the drain pan for the moment. You can see it looks pretty clean up in there. The fluid is still red. It's not as red as it is new. But this fluid, like I said, has about, oh, I don't know, 17,000 miles on it, I guess, somewhere around there. And transmission was shifting fine, everything like that. But again, this is just good preventative maintenance. You can see the filter right there is being held on by those two bolts. And we're going to remove that next. Okay, so here's the inside of the pan. You want to be looking for anything that's abnormal. Abnormal would be chunks of metal, bits of plastic, gasket material, anything like that. And actually there's a couple drops of water in here or something skimming along the top. And then over in the corner is this magnet. And on the magnet, you're gonna see there's like a sludgy, grayish, oily thing. That's banned in metal material since the last service that collected on that magnet. You want to take that magnet out. It looks like a donut. It's just magnetized to the pan. And just pull it out. It's not attached by anything, and clean it off. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's cleaned up. Okay, so now we got the inside of the pan cleaned up, and the gasket should probably still be on here, and there may be a bolt or two still attached to it. Get the extra bolts out, don't lose them, you'll need those, but the pan gasket can be thrown away as well. We have a new one with the kit. Now that we have everything cleaned up, the next step will be to install the filter on the transmission, and that attaches to the bottom of the valve body with 3 screws that get torqued down to 35 inch-pounds. I almost forgot to show you the magnet. The magnet goes back in its location right over top of that little dimple in the corner. And apparently where they did not powder coat the corner, it's kind of shiny over there, it does not go in the inverted dimple over on this side. Okay, the next step is to get the filter back on the valve body. And I have a Wix filter here from the kit. And it pretty much only goes on one way because of the hole alignment. And these bolts will get torqued down to 35 inch-pounds with our T20 Torx bit. And I use my little dial indicator. The blue mark set on 35. Okay, your kit may have come with more than one gasket, but if you did well with shapes in kindergarten, I don't think you'll have any problem finding the correct one. So we've got the pan pretty much just kind of set back up in there with the most of the bolts just kind of finger tight. We're going to go ahead and run those down to 150 inch-pounds. Okay, we have all the pan bolts now torqued down to 150 inch-pounds, or 12 foot-pounds, if you want to think of it that way. If you have a wrench that'll do that. The reason they give you the 150 inch-pounds is not many torque wrenches are accurate down to 12 foot-pounds. So anyway, up to the top side, refill, and a pan drop and filter change usually uses 4 quarts. So we'll check it out. So we know the pan is dry, and we're going to start with adding about 3.5 quarts of fluid. You really need to check this hot, because obviously fluid expands as it gets warmer. And so we're going to add 3.5. We'll go ahead and start the car, run it through its gears, even just in park, and then we'll check it again. Then we're going to drive around the block, heat it up a little bit, and we come back, we'll check it for real, put it in neutral, put the emergency brake, put it in neutral, and then check the dipstick one more time and get it up to the add mark. So let's add 3.5 quarts right now. Another side note, ATF4 has superseded ATF3. There's a bunch of people out there saying, oh no, you know, my Jeep really needs ATF3, that's what the book says, blah, blah, blah. Chrysler put out a service bulletin, and when they designed ATF4, it's got some different additives in it. But you'll see even on this label here, it's ATF4 and ATF3 applications. You may be able to find ATF3 somewhere, but it's old stock sitting on somebody's shelf for a long, long time. So ATF4 is perfectly fine for an ATF3 application. Okay, so now we've warmed it up. We ran it around the block a few times. Probably put 2 or 3 miles on it. Certainly enough to heat up the transmission fluid by now. It is in neutral with the emergency brake on. And now we're going to check the fluid level and see where we're at. And we are right at the top. You can't really say because the fluid's so clean. Right at the top of the hash mark. So we are good to go. I said it takes 4 quarts if you drop the pan and replace the filter. I'm going to say now somewhere between 3.5 and 4 quarts. I put just a little bit more than 3.5 quarts in before I ran it around the block. So just, you know, what you don't want to do is overfill it. You can underfill it too, certainly, but don't overfill it. Otherwise, you're going to have to suck some fluid back out with an extractor or something like that. Anyway, thanks for joining Jim's Jeeps today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. We've got more content coming. And as always, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for joining us today.